Hello everyone and welcome to this realistic touch tutorial. Download the zip file and unzip it. Once unzipped, you can delete the zip file if you wish. Now let's go to Blender. Go to Edit, Preferences, go to File Path and click on More. Open the folder and select the location of the blend file. Click on Add Asset Library, then don't forget to save the preferences. You can now close the window. Now open a new window in Blender. Go to the Asset Browser and select Realistic Touch. All categories are now loaded. Now then, let's use Realistic Touch. Let's start by selecting the texture we want to use. For example, this one. I'll open a Shader Editor panel. I click and drag the texture directly into the node editor. Another panel opens and we can start setting parameters. The most important thing is not to forget to link the way the texture will be applied to your object. In this case, we've used UV. But you could have used other settings. Don't forget to connect it to the vector. Well, we're going to connect the result to the roughness. We have a real-time rendering of the preview. Let's take a look at the available parameters. A and B are the colors and allow you to manage the black and white of your texture. For example, if everything is white, our plate is matte. On the other hand, if everything is black, our plate is glossy. Thanks to these two factors, we'll be able to make the fingerprints appear progressively, while ensuring that the plate isn't very glossy like this. That's the first factor. Note that you can also play with the second factor, to min, to max, which allows you to adjust the power of the white or the power of the black. This is a second solution, and we have a third solution, which consists of adjusting the image's brightness and contrast. The brighter the image, the more matte it will be. On the other hand, if you go the other way, it will be bright and the contrast will allow only certain parts of the texture to stand out. This is a third way of setting your texture according to what you want to do. The reverse slider inverts the black and white texture. Scale increases the number of repetitions. Textures are seamless. The location sliders allow you to move the texture on all axes, and the rotation slider allows you to rotate your texture for better positioning. You don't have to connect the texture to roughness. You could also connect it to specular for another effect. We'll determine that our shiny plate looks like this, and we can now see different shades of specularity on our object. You can also combine specular and roughness to get even more elaborate effects, but you can also combine effects. Let's combine the fingerprint effect with random scratches. As before, don't forget to plug in UV. Now let's mix the two textures. With the Wrangler node, we can press Shift, Control, right-click between the two nodes to add a mix. But we can also do it manually by fetching a mix color and connecting the first output here and the second output here. In our example, we'll use Ctrl-Shift-Click, again with the Wrangler node. The node Wrangler is a free add-on to Blender that you can activate here. Shift-Control-Click lets you preview live textures, fingerprints, scratches, and a mix of the two. We're going to decide to reduce the size of the scratches, and we're going to set the factor for the mix of many scratches, not many fingerprints, and vice versa. We can also play with blend modes, multiply, overlay, and screen. In our example, we're going to stick with a mix that will allow us to subtly add a few stripes. And once again, we'll connect this output to roughness and then reconnect it here. You can also change the scratch settings here. You can also have fun using this output as a bump. Let's add a bump here and plug in the normal one. Reduce the slider a little. We have a slightly bumpy surface. Of course, you can increase the power as you wish. Now let's look at another way of using imperfect surfaces. We've created a tile texture on the floor. Here it is. There are different maps. We want to show footprints. To do this, we've selected the Flooring 9 texture. Once again, Shift Controls, click on it to make the texture appear. Simply connect the result to the surface. If you want to do it manually, we want these footprints to be bloodstains. It was Halloween not long ago. So we're going to create a shader, which is here. It's ready, and we're going to select it with red. Very little specularity. and 0 roughness so that it's completely shiny. And we're going to mix this shader with the floor tile shader. The same principle as before, except that it's no longer a mix color, but a mix shader that we're going to use. And the mixing factor will be our Flooring 9 texture. Let's plug it in. It's reversed, so we'll switch the two. And now we see that our footprints are blood red. Of course, we'll be able to adjust the rotation, but also the scale of the footprints and a host of other parameters. Another concrete example on a sphere like this one, choose a grunge texture and import it. Don't forget to smooth the object and connect it to the metal output. Don't forget to add the UV, and we now have a sort of peeling paint texture, revealing the metal surface underneath. Obviously, this is only an example, but it's just to show that the result of your texture can be plugged in anywhere, can be combined with different parameters to be able to create various and varied effects. There are no limits to the use of Realistic Touch. You can combine, mix, add, transform all textures and create renderings with a very high level of detail. Enjoy!